In this lesson, we're going to use the viewport background to display an animated reference image to help us with animation. Okay, so there may be a situation where you have an animated sequence or a sequence of images or an AVI file that has someone walking or something like that, and you want to actually use that in your viewport background to help you animate your own character. So the way that we can do this is a couple of different ways. We could actually use an AVI file, or we could actually use a PNG sequence of images. Okay, so the first way that we're going to look at is the sequence of images. So let's go to Views, Viewport Background again, and let's go ahead and go to Files, and what we want to do is go down to our first walk cycle sequence. Okay, now it's very important that you have your images of your sequences named correctly. So as you can see, I have walk cycle underscore sequence underscore 01. Now the numbering is what's really important. So you need to have something like, you could have walk cycle 01, or you could have walk cycle underscore sequence 01, or in my case, walk cycle underscore sequence underscore 01. Okay, and it has to match the same naming convention for the next one. So you can see 02. Because what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and select this first one, and in order to import an actual sequence, we have to check this box called sequence. Okay, now once it's actually checked, let's go ahead and hit setup, and you'll see that we get a couple of different options here. Now 3ds Max, if you've named this correctly, will go ahead and set everything up for you. So we have this start frame of 0, and we have an end frame of 31, because I actually have 32 different images in this sequence. So it's already recognized those as part of the sequence because I named them correctly. Now you could do a couple of things. You could actually tell it to skip every image or every other image or every 2 images or something like that if you want to do that. But in our case, we're just going to go ahead and hit OK. Okay. Now let's go ahead and hit Open. And it's going to go ahead and bring up this setup again. Let's hit OK. And you'll notice that nothing has actually been brought in. Well, we need to go ahead and use our match bitmap, make sure that we have the right size correct. And then we also want to do this lock zoom pan here. Okay. Now you don't necessarily have to do lock zoom pan if you don't really want to, but I want to go ahead and just use it anyway. Now we do need to make sure that this animate background is checked. Otherwise we won't actually see any animation going on with our sequence. So let's hit OK, and you'll see that our image has been brought in. Now let's hit G on the keyboard, and if we go ahead and we scrub through, you can see that our image is now animated. Okay. Now one thing that you'll notice is that if I actually grab the slider and I start moving through, you can't actually see it animated. If I hit play, you don't see it animated. And you're actually supposed to be able to see that. Okay? Well, there's an actual option that you have to update, okay, in order to be able to play that. So if we go to Customize, Preferences, Viewports, we can see that we have this checkbox that's unchecked. It's called Update Background While Playing. So let's check that, hit OK. And now if we hit play, you can see that this image will go ahead and play. Now one thing that you notice is that after it gets past 32, that image disappears. Okay? And that's really just because of our viewport background settings. We didn't actually set that up. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let's go to Views, Viewport Background, Viewport Background. And again, you could use the shortcut Alt-B. Now we have this section called Animation Synchronization. Okay, and this is what allows us to modify how it looks in the viewport, how it plays. So we have use frame 0 to 31. Okay, and that's the sequence that it's set up for us. Okay, we can have it go ahead and actually skip every other one, or we can actually have it play every single frame. That's why it's set to 1. Okay, now we could also have it play a range. So we could tell it to actually start playing this image at frame 10 or 20 or whatever. Okay. So what I want to do is go ahead and actually work with this start processing and end processing section. So the start processing says if it's not within our range, it's going to be blank before it actually starts. And that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it at that. But our end processing is where we see after 32, it disappears. So that's why it says blank after end. Now we could have it hold after end, and what we'll see is just this image stopped at that last frame. Or we could actually do loop, to where it'll just keep playing that image after 32. It'll restart. So that's what I want to do with this. So let's go ahead and hit OK. Let's hit play. And you'll see that this continues to play in our loop. Okay. All right. So one more way that we can use animation sequences, or actually animation videos in our background, is actually using an AVI file. So let's go ahead and let's go to Views, Viewport Background, and let's go to our files. And you'll notice one thing that we brought up, I forgot to mention this, is whenever you actually create that sequence, it creates an IFL file. This is a sequence file. And that's what's actually being placed in the background. It's not just all of those images playing one after another. They're actually compiled into an IFL file to play that. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and go to All Formats, and let's find that AVI file, and there it is. Okay, let's go ahead and hit Open, and we can do Match Bitmap, Lock Zoom Pan, Animate Background. Let's hit OK, and you'll see that we have our image, and this is our actual movie file. So if I play this, you can see that it's just playing our movie file instead. So you can use sequences, or you can use movie files. It's done exactly the same way. So two things that you need to remember whenever using animations: you need to go to Viewport Background, you need to have the Animate Background box checked, and then you also need to go to Customize Preferences and make sure that the Update Background while playing is also checked. Okay? So with that said, that completely covers how we can use reference images inside of 3ds Max. So I know that this was a pretty short course, but we get right to the point here. And so hopefully you learn quite a bit about how to use reference images, and hopefully you know the best way for your own project. And I'll see you guys next time.